From dropping their marbles in public and raving at Josh Horowitz, to accusing a German friend of theirs of transphobia and Nazism, these are Ezra Miller's most embarrassing moments. To start off, let's talk about the time they were on an episode of After Hours, hosted by Josh Horowitz, a close friend of Ezra's. You can tell this is an older episode because Horowitz was talking to Miller about playing Credence Barebone in the first Fantastic Beasts movie, which came out all the way back in 2016. Now, during the show, Josh admitted that he hadn't seen a single Harry Potter movie, which came as a huge shock to Ezra. Seeing that this bothered Ezra, Josh continued to needle them about how he prefers Twilight, which made things worse. With their eye literally twitching, Ezra asked Josh if he'd at least read the first book, making sure that Josh wasn't confused by the different titles it had in the US and UK. But nope, no dice. That sent Miller into a tirade about how Josh had missed out on the magical moments of the series, and they went so far as to throw water in Josh's face when he named the one who must not be named. This goes on for an uncomfortable 4 minutes, in which Ezra threw even more stuff at Josh, humming the theme of the movies at the camera while they were at it. All of this happened in a crowded restaurant too, and those customers might not watch an Ezra Miller movie again, and neither would Josh. The next moment I'm going to talk about came from another interview about the movie, though as embarrassing as it was, at least Ezra didn't blow his top. At the start of the interview, Ezra and the interviewer went off on a bit of a tangent, talking about what's real and what isn't, and Ezra suggested that what's unreal can also be real. I'm sure you can relate to the interviewer there, who felt completely thrown off by the direction the interview was taking. Ezra ended the tangent by saying that they can just go Ovid and then things will start falling apart. Apparently, that was a joke, because they were surprised that no one laughed at it, and they only get some courtesy laughs when they asked if anyone got the joke. Like I said, they handled this situation way better than the other ones, even brushing off the interviewer's question about them. Now, I have a confession, folks. I didn't get the joke either, and if I'm being honest, I still don't get it. Let me know in the comments section below what Ovid is, and what that has to do with reality and things falling apart. In the meantime, let's check out a moment from an interview Ezra did to promote the Fantastic Beasts sequel, one that came so very close to escalating into something bad. The thing about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them is that, while the movie got decent reviews, Harry Potter fans didn't like it all that much. This might be surprising, because unlike the older Harry Potter movies, the Fantastic Beasts series has been penned for the screen by J.K. Rowling herself. But it's hard to ignore the problems that the movie has, especially when Rowling gets things wrong in the lore of the universe that she created. Now, Ezra took aim at one fan who complained about this. The fan argued that the scene in which people apparate into Hogwarts doesn't make sense, because as any Hogwarts hopeful can tell you, it's something you're not allowed to do. The point that the actor tried to make is that you can't call out Rowling for getting the rules wrong, because everything in the Harry Potter universe is written or signed off by her, meaning she's the one who makes the rules. It's hard to argue with their logic, but if Rowling was making an exception, she could have tried to explain it. And despite being a massive Harry Potter nerd, Ezra couldn't explain it either. I guess she must be happy, though, that for every critic she has, there's an equally passionate fan out there defending her. Clearly, Ezra is outspoken and ready to confront anyone for any reason, and that has gotten them and their career into some serious trouble. While the Fantastic Beasts movies may have pushed Ezra into the spotlight, today, the real career boost comes from getting into a superhero franchise. That's exactly what Ezra managed to do, landing a role as Barry Allen, the very first big-screen Flash. But their time as the Flash may be running out, as their behavior since 2020 has triggered a massive backlash, and DC fans want them out of the franchise, even as their breakout movie, The Flash, is set to release in June of 2023. Rumor has it that Warner Brothers are happy with how the movie turned out, and James Gunn is considering keeping Ezra as the Flash even after he reboots the DC movie franchise. But it's looking like the fans aren't going to let that happen. Let's go over a few lowlights that show why people are so down on Ezra, starting with the beginning of their downfall in 2020. I think I speak for most people when I say that it'd be really cool to meet your favorite actor, but getting choked and thrown to the ground by them would be a total downer. That's exactly what happened in Iceland in 2020, when a fan caught up to Ezra and started to chat with them. She noticed that his shoes were scuffed up and asked what happened, and Ezra joked that they'd been in a fight. The fan played along and said that she could totally take Ezra in a fight, but for some reason the actor took it seriously, proceeding to choke her and throw her down with genuine violence. As we've seen so far in the video, Ezra is an eccentric person, and the victim did say that she thought they were just messing around at first, but it didn't take long for her to realize that Ezra was genuinely mad. What's worse is that the whole incident was caught on video, which drew a lot of attention to the woman, as well as making the debacle itself worse for Ezra. If this was the only time they'd flipped out in this way, they might be okay right now, but 2 years later, Ezra began their reign of terror for real. 2022 was a bad year to be in Hawaii because Ezra Miller was there too, and they were a real menace. Their first arrest came in March, when they were booked on charges of disorderly conduct and harassment at a bar in Hilo. The actor was doing well enough until people started doing some karaoke, which really ticked them off for some reason. They started cursing at the singers and even snatched the mic from the 23-year-old woman who was singing. A 32-year-old man who was playing darts and probably not even thinking of karaoke got caught in the crossfire too. Now, as far as I know, charges are being pressed on Ezra here, and he had to pay bail to get out of jail. But as y'all know, he didn't take this chance to stay on the down low, with his next arrest coming just a month later. This next incident took place at a friend's home in Pahoa, where Ezra got agitated yet again and started going off. They got violent, and this time they actually threw a chair at a 26-year-old woman in the house. She suffered a half-inch cut, which is bad enough, but it could have been a lot worse. Though she refused treatment for the cut, it looks like she isn't letting Ezra off the hook, as the actor wound up with a second-degree assault charge for his troubles. This incident is under investigation, though you probably won't hear much about it until the Flash movie gets out the door. Again, most people might stop and think about what they've done when they're facing charges like these, but Ezra just took the reign of terror on a world tour. Still in 2022, a woman going by the name Nadia told Variety about the behavior she faced from the actor in Berlin, where Ezra was visiting her at her apartment. Nadia had been friends with the actor for 2 years, but she hadn't met them in person since 2020, and she was happy to invite them over. What she wasn't happy about was Ezra violating her no-smoking policy at her apartment. And when she asked Ezra to cut it out, that familiar and scary pattern of behavior started again. The actor started calling her out, accusing her of being transphobic and a Nazi, and he ignored her requests for him to get out. They also caused a mess in the apartment, looking at and touching everything, and dropping tobacco leaves on the ground. In hindsight, Nadia wasn't worried that Ezra might sexually assault her, but she was concerned that they might assault her in some other way, which is massive yikes. She wound up filing a criminal complaint against him, meaning German fans of Ezra Miller shouldn't hold their breath for their return. But at this point, would anyone actually want to run into them? So, from terrorizing an old friend of theirs in Germany to raving at Josh Horowitz for not being a Harry Potter fan, those were Ezra Miller's most embarrassing moments.